This is episode number 2 of the live call-in show. Yeah. So, just before we went live, I was told by a friend, you need a name for this show. Hold on. I'm wearing this head. I'm going to flip the headset around. Okay. So it looks like he did a little chat GPT. This is what it looks like to me. Name suggestions. Number 1, Soul Talk Live. Number 2, and if you like any of these name suggestions, let us know. How can you let us know? You can send us a WhatsApp at the SoulWords WhatsApp, which is, I'm going to read the number right here. The SoulWords WhatsApp is 516-495-3021. And just let us know you like any of these names or any other feedback that you may have. Okay, so here are some of the name suggestions that came in. Okay, number 1, Soul Talk Live. Number 2, Ask Rabbi Taub. That's already the name of the Ami column, I think. Okay, number 3, Taub Talks. A little alliteration. Number 4, SoulWords Live. I like that, SoulWords Live. Number 5, Conversations with Rabbi Taub. Number 6, Live with Rabbi Shais Taub. Number 7, Spiritual Connections. Number 8, Taub's Talk Line. Number 9, Jewish Insights Live. That's in case they want to fire me and replace me. Number 10, Rabbi Taub's Open Line. Or incorporate the YouTube channel name. Number 1, SoulWords Live, Rabbi Taub Unscripted. Number 2, SoulWords Conversations. And number 3, YouTube Live with Rabbi Shais Taub. Choose the one that resonates with your audience and the show's tone. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's ChatGPT. All right, so I want to thank my kids who caused this to happen. This is really originally, I think, the brainchild of my son-in-law, Moshe David, Stama Jungerman, who pushed for this to happen. This was his idea that this should be the call-in show, and then he made it happen. The first one that we did was during the intermediate days of Sukkot, when the whole family was here at the house. I'm in the home studio right now. And we did our first inaugural SoulWords Live. Is that what we're calling it? Okay. And now we're trying another one, SoulWords Live number 2. And now my son, Yisrael, got into the mix. Yisrael Taub is the building manager at the Shluchim office on Eastern Parkway. And as such, he has a lot of contacts. He's a very connected guy. So he said, I know a guy, we have a phone guy who does our phone system in the Shluchim office. I'm going to talk to him, and I'm going to find out if he can set up a phone system for the live show. And he did. So thank you, Yisrael, for setting up the phone system. By the way, guys, there's a little WhatsApp group called SLW Call-In Center, which I guess is SoulWords. What is SLW? SoulWords Live? SoulWords? What is SLW? Call-In Center. Okay, so could somebody from the family who's on the SoulWords Live Call-In Center WhatsApp chat even just post anything, letting me know that this is actually working? Is anyone really even listening to this? Does anyone know what time it is? Does anyone really care? Okay. I see a comment in the YouTube comments. SoulWords Live is good brand. Okay. Fine. So, yeah. Anybody listening? Moshe's typing. Woo-hoo. Taubel is Moshe's wife. But I knew Taubel before she was Moshe's wife. I knew Taubel when she was just My little baby daughter. Sunrise, sunset. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go. Oh, Yisrael, do you want me to give out the phone number for calling in? No, we don't want to give out the phone number. So I just want to explain to everybody how this works. A lot of people sent us suggestions of topics. I'm not doing that. That's not how this works. I'm not here to talk about topics. You call in and I talk to you. But we have to make sure that it's not just a bunch of trolls. So you email first, and then if we think you're serious, then we send you the call-in number. Okay, so, I have to join the call. Oh, my goodness. Okay, should be working now. Okay. Hello, who am I talking to? Is Avi here?
Yes, my name is Avi.
Amazing. Baruch Hashem, it finally worked.
Baruch
Okay.
Hashem, we've made technical difficulties over.
Yes, we've overcome our technical difficulties. Okay. So
wonderful.
Thank
Baruch
you for
Hashem.
joining us. This is so nice of you to be willing to have this discussion here in front of all of your closest friends on YouTube. Okay, so what's up?
All right. I wanted to discuss with you something that's been causing me not anguish, but a little bit of sorrow, I guess, both to me and to some of my friends. I emailed in a 2-part question, and I guess we'll start with the first part. So I come from a Moroccan Sephardic descent, as do my friends. And recently I was speaking with a girl, and I'm in my mid-20s, I should say, my mid-20s, low to mid-20s. I'm Bal Shuvah, but I come from a dynasty of rabbis in Morocco, including my grandfather. So I've been around the Orthodox Judaism, and now I'm an Orthodox Jew myself. And I was recently speaking to a girl who's Chabad through and through, from Brooklyn. And we hit it off very well. We spoke for over 2 weeks. We really enjoyed each other's company. We agreed on everything. We had similar views on everything. And at the end of it, she said to me, I don't want to speak to you anymore because you're not a Chabad bacher.
Okay.
And I was really taken aback. By that. I could say, okay, kapara, not for me, whatever.
Yeah.
My issue is more, what do we do as a community? It's not just on the dating side. I've obviously there are more Ashkenazi Jews here in the United States than there are Mizrahi Jews. So when I'm in Jewish spaces, I find myself being the outlier a little bit, looked a little bit differently. Maybe I don't have the Ashkenazi pronunciation of the words and I stick out. Mm-hmm. My friend recently, one of my friends were studying in Ashkenazi yeshiva, and the Sephardic custom is when we're davening to put the talit over the head, and in that yeshiva they wore the hat instead. And my friend put his talit over his head, and the rabbi came in the middle of his davening and ripped the talit off of him. And he told me he ripped the talit off of my head and slammed the hat down on me.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we?
Okay, but there's a few things going on
overcome
here.
Something like this.
Okay, so first of all,
yeah,
let's talk about this story about the girl you were dating. That was the scenario.
I wouldn't call it dating. I wouldn't call it dating, but yeah.
Okay.
We were getting there.
You were getting there. You were in the pre-dating.
Yes, let's call it pre-dating.
You were courting.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah. Marriage is an endeavor of building a home together. And in order to do that, you really have to be on the same page as far as values. So it makes sense that somebody says, I want to marry somebody who shares my same very specific ideological background. What's kind of not nice about it is if she had those strong convictions, then she probably should have known that beforehand. So, it's not very nice the way she handled it, but to me, that's not a terrible thing for somebody to say, you know what, I just realized you're coming from a different hashkafa, a different framework, and I just realized for me it's very important to raise my family in this very specific way, so it's not going to work between us. If indeed that's the discussion, if it's about marriage. Because even though there are many valid ways, there are many valid ways to raise a Jewish home, but you got to kind of pick one. You got to pick a lane, right? Yeah. But aside from marriage, let's just talk about being respectful of each other's customs and way of life. I'm sure you know the power of Achdus Yisrael, or Jewish unity, and from the positive you can infer the opposite, how devastating it is when, God forbid, there is anything less than unity among us. And unity isn't just between individuals, but it's also between communities. And to love and respect the holy traditions of all the different communities within the Am Yisrael. So, that's an important thing.
It's a tough one. It's something that I've been experiencing more and more as I travel through Jewish spaces. I tend to. I was davening by myself for a while. Now I have Baruch Hashem, I have a minyan that shares my nusach, so that makes it a little easier. But at the same time, it's when I even at a Jewish grocery store, I'll walk into a Jewish grocery store in an Ashkenazi neighborhood because I need an ingredient, and I wear a kippah all the time. But and then sometimes I wear tzitz katan, but not all the time. And I'll be looked at like I'm an alien. Like, well, they'll ask me, what am I doing there? I'm like, wait a minute, is the kippah on my head invisible? Am I not a Jew? Do I?
Yeah. I should go. I want to go to a kosher grocery with you, and I want to confront these people. We should go in together.
It's such a strange experience.
I can't pretend to know what that feels like. It's actually I don't want to sound insensitive, but I'm admitting my ignorance. I can't even imagine that experience. Like I believe you because this is your experience, but it's like it's hard for me to even imagine what that would be like. It's very strange because I am an Orthodox Jew, and there is a kippah on my head when I walk into these places, but I guess just the way that sometimes I'm around a lot of Israelis, so and my family is Israeli, so I speak Hebrew. So I'll go into a place and sometimes they'll speak to me in Yiddish, and I'm like, I don't speak Yiddish, and I'll speak back in Hebrew. Is that good enough to pass the test?
We might find something common there, and usually it's not.
No.
And no, it's such a strange.
Where are you going shopping? Don't call out the exact store. I don't want to say the exact store, but what neighborhood? Where are you shopping?
There are places, certain places in South Florida that are very strong Ashkenazi communities.
That's where you live in South Florida.
I do live in South Florida. Yeah, I moved from New York to South Florida.
That's such a strange thing, because if you were telling me this was like, Poland in the 1850s, then I could imagine there are people who never saw anyone even remotely different than whoever they grew up with. But in a melting pot like America, and especially like a metropolis like South Florida, I think at this point all Jews have sort of experienced all of the different types of varieties and every type of Jewish community, and it's very strange. So what
you would think, but
you would think.
When it's not like it happens all the time, but it happens enough where it's not a problem, because it doesn't because most of the time it doesn't offend me, because I know that they're coming from a place of curiosity, like, whoa, who's this guy?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it comes from you're not one of us place, and it doesn't just bother me. It bothers my friend who is a Sephardic kid who just went and studied in the Mir, is back from Israel, learns all the way, and he still kind of sticks out in those spaces in the yeshivot, and he's like a novelty, an alien. So I conferred with him, and it's so just to make sure it's not just me.
Right, he had a similar experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
My question is, how do we really how do we bridge the gap when in that Achdut Yisrael, when somebody is when I get that experience of you're not one of us.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if maybe it happens like, oh, Chabad, oh, you're not Chabad, you're Breslov, oh, you're not Breslov, you're Satmar, or maybe it happens in those spaces. I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm. How do you deal with this feeling that somebody is looking at you as some type of other? Well, I think
it depends. It depends where it's coming from. Also, like if it's coming from a Jew, from a fellow Jew, it hurts sometimes, because I'm a Balei Tshuva, I'm a recent Balei Tshuva of less than 2 years.
To my thinking, really the most important thing, before we even discuss the PR aspect of this, like how do we educate others, to me the important thing is to begin with my own clarity. In other words, and this could be about your identity as a Jew, and it could be about anything else. When somebody else is looking at you as less than and causing you to question yourself, the first question, before we even get into, well, how can I educate this person, or even should I even attempt to educate this person, before we even get into that, the much more important question is, am I clear with myself? In other words, is there a part of me that's questioning me? So, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but if we're having this discussion right now in front of everyone who's listening, I would say the first thing in a case like this is for the person who's experiencing this feeling of rejection to check inside of his or her own heart and make sure there's no part of yourself that's rejecting yourself, meaning you have to be clear about your identity.
Yeah, and I've had this. I've had a similar thought, and I've done a lot of searching, and this is and I am exactly where I'd like to be right now, especially in my Judaism. My parents are not super religious, but my grandparents absolutely are. Sofer, Mashkiach, Moel, the whole 9 yards.
Somebody's writing in the YouTube chat that here's the solution: move to Flatbush. Ashkenazim are the minority in certain parts. Yeah, but he doesn't want the winters.
That's very true.
He doesn't want to.
I used to live in Mill Basin, so I know the deal.
Yeah, but he likes Florida. He wants to stay in Florida. Okay.
I don't want to stay in Florida. No, it's not about. I'm Baruch Hashem, I'm around a lot of people who share my nusach and all of that. So it's not a huge deal for tefillah and things like that. But when I go around in other Jewish spaces, when I'll go to a Jewish young Jewish conference or a young Jewish things for people my age to meet each other or connect, that's where where I run into things there, and ironically at the Ashkenazi grocery store. But
Okay, so I want to say to everyone who's listening right now that Avi has brought up an incredibly important point. And as I mentioned before, our strength is Achdus Yisrael, or in honor of Avi, I'm going to say Achdut Yisrael. And we have to embrace each other. And part of our strength is our diversity. Part of our strength is that there's such a rich tapestry of different traditions within our people. And come on, guys, let's embrace each other. You don't have to be like the other. Doesn't mean you have to be a conformist. See, this is one of the things that sometimes people misunderstand. We don't all have to be like each other. You can retain your distinct ideology and your customs. You don't have to be like anyone else, but at the same time, they don't have to be like you. And this is part of the strength of our people. Okay, anyways, Avi, this was a really important point. I'm glad you brought it up. We have another caller who's holding on the line right now, so I want to be respectful of her time and get to her. So I'm going to move to the next call, but that was an awesome subject, and thank you for bringing it up, and I'm sure that it will resonate with people and move them to reflect on this important point. Okay.
It was a pleasure, Kvodarav. Thank you very much. When you're ready to come down to Florida, you come, you stay. We have rice on Pesach.
Yeah, but I won't be able to eat it. I will respect your eating the rice on Pesach, but I'm not. I had a discussion with a friend of mine. Would you be willing to trade rice on Pesach for slichas and elul? No, I would not. Because rice on Pesach, I wouldn't do slichas and elul. Slichot and elul is too much for me. I'll miss the rice for 8 days. But at any rate, amazing.
Have a great night.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, our next caller. Tell me when our next caller is on the line. I think our next caller is a woman, Zohar. Is that correct?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So you're on live with us. What would you like to talk about?
Okay. I've never done this before. So, okay. Can I just go back to my email and read kind of what I wrote, maybe?
Okay, but I think it'll be more compelling for people who just speak from the heart.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Sorry, I just got nervous. Okay. So I'm 31-year-old female. I've been married for 8 beautiful years and without children by personal choice.
Okay.
My husband desires children very much. I do not. But when looking back at childhood, I imagined my life married with children. And when I met my husband, I still desired a growing family at some point. Like, not right away, but eventually. So the one thing that has changed is I experienced trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I battled cancer 2 years after, our wedding. I was, 26, 27 years old when I battled cancer, and, Baruch Hashem, I'm in remission.
Thank God, yeah.
Yeah, so there's trauma there. Okay, so anyone who's ever dealt with trauma, you deal with it to a certain point. You feel trauma-free, and then you dig a little more, and there's more, and there's always more. So right now I could tell you I'm 100%, I've done the work, but we know that there's always more work to be done. Anyway, so my husband is amazing, understanding, talk about everything, thank God.
Thank God, yeah.
If he didn't desire children, this wouldn't be a topic. This wouldn't be a sikha. It wouldn't be a discussion. I would just be okay, no kids. Awesome. But I know in my bones that he was born to be a father. And I don't doubt that I would be a tremendous mother. My personality, I'm very it's not that. And so when I really have done the work to dig deep and sit with myself and daven and sit with myself in a very spiritual way, it comes down to the pregnancy part of it all. And I understand you can become a mother without pregnancy, but specifically here I'm talking about pregnancy. And I guess I've already self-diagnosed myself, so I'll just share.
Okay.
But what I think, and I don't know because I don't want to like tip you off of what you think, but I think that, and this might sound dark.
You're
to some people,
afraid.
but
You're
it's really
afraid
dark.
that you're going to bias me. That by you saying what you think of your situation, it's going to lead me in that direction.
Yes.
Well, you're 100% right, but I want to tell you why it's not a problem. You use the term self-diagnosis. In my opinion, okay, so first of all, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a clinician. I don't do any type of diagnosis. So when we use the term diagnosis, we're using it colloquially, meaning we're using it as an expression. Okay. So that by diagnosis, what we mean is an assessment, right? And that's how you meant it, but I just want to explain to the listeners. Okay. The only diagnosis that ever matters is self-diagnosis. I'm going to say that again. The only diagnosis that ever matters is self-diagnosis. To the extent that there was, I forget his name now, he was one of the fathers of modern medicine. He was actually a Canadian doctor. Somebody will Google it and put it in the chat. But he used to say, listen to the patient. He is telling you the diagnosis. Okay, I believe that we are incredibly intuitive and that we know what our problem is. One of the skills that I've developed over the years is listening for this self-diagnosis moment where somebody will tell me what their problem is. I hold on to it. I wait till they're done telling their story. Then I just say back to them what they told me. And they say, you're amazing. How did you know that? And I say, you told me. And it's not just a party trick of impressing people like they think you read their mind. It's called cold reading, actually, where you guess around the words that people are using and, until you guess warmer and warmer. But there's something spiritually true about this. We are intuitive. We are in tune. We do know ourselves. Okay, sometimes there's confusion that's layered on top of that. And so we speak to somebody who's compassionate, who can help us to pull away the layers of confusion. But there's no doubt in my mind that each of us really does know what our issue is. And so with that whole long introduction, what I want to say to you is, own it. Just tell me. You know what it is. So tell it to me, and we'll talk through it. You name what it is, and then we'll talk through it. You with me?
Yes. Yes, that's bullseye. Yes.
That's bullseye. Okay.
And I do.
Okay.
They relate to being a very intuitive, spiritual, kind of highly sensitive person. Anyway, so back to the pregnancy factor.
Yeah. But you were about to tell me what it is about you.
Yes. So I think it comes down to the thought I guess I'll go back to the trauma is that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the dog barking in the background. That goes back to the trauma is, I'm sorry that this will sound dark, but it's the truth, is that I just lived for a very long time thinking, okay, will I see tomorrow? Will I fall asleep tonight and see tomorrow? So I eventually desensitized myself to become very comfortable with the thought of death in like a very logical way. And I'm saying that without emotion right now.
Yeah.
And so that's what kept me in survival mode. It protects you. And so I don't know if this makes sense, but I'm almost protecting myself from deeply bonding with the baby in the womb because I'm in the back of my head. I still think, well, what if I live an ephemeral life?
Yeah.
So I'm almost like cutting away to guard myself.
100%.
And I'm okay with that. I'm so okay with that too.
And if you wouldn't be married to your husband who's destined to be an awesome father, it wouldn't be an issue because you would just move on in life.
Right.
Right. But Hashem in his infinite wisdom saw to it that you are married to your husband. And so it is an issue and it is a conflict. Exactly. But I just want to tell you something. Exactly. I 100% believe your, what we're calling quote unquote diagnosis. I think you nailed it. I think that's 100% what it is. I just want to say it back to you because it might hit a little bit different when you hear it in another person's voice. You were told something that nobody wants to hear. You were told that your life was at risk. The doctor said you're not well. And that's the worst news that you can get. And you were living with that shock, which you call a trauma. You rightly call that a trauma, the trauma of being told you could die, God forbid. And one of the ways you survived that emotionally and mentally during the years before your remission was you embraced death. And you said, okay, if it's here for me, great. And you became ambivalent about life and death. And you did that as a coping mechanism because you knew that you needed to retain your sanity. And that's how you did it. And you did retain your sanity. But and thank God you went into remission. But now, even though the cancer is in remission, there's this mental holdover, which is, I spent 2 years hypnotizing myself for survival purposes that I don't care about life, and I can't shake that feeling. It's still with me. And how am I supposed to care about a baby's life growing inside of me if I don't even care about my own life? If you want to adjust anything that I've just said, please feel free to do so.
I would say I connected with all of it, except for that last sentence. Is I so value life, and I can value a child's
life. Your own life?
Just to add
your
another
own life?
Own life and others.
Okay.
I do. I feel purposeful. It took me time to regain that purpose, but I'm there. Thank God. It's. I guess I'll just throw another layer in here. Is I've even been able to wrap my mind around the thought of like adopting, or if it was like halachically kosher surrogacy, like, which I know sounds wild, but I'm like, it's like something very specific about carrying a child that makes me feel like physically ill. Like that part of that's the factor. And I've had to soften to the thought of parenting, right? I've had to understand after, like you said, Hashem's like, you're with your husband, like it's coming up. It's going to be a sikha for all the time. And so
can I ask you,
that is the specific factor.
Is any aspect of the fear the very reasonable fear that pregnancy will be difficult on your body and you're not physically up to it?
Part of it is.
Okay.
But I think that every physical is rooted in something.
100%.
In a seed that is,
You are 100%
so
correct.
That's really what I'm.
Okay. So you are a God-fearing woman, a believing Jew, and here's what I want to advise you on this part of it. There are multiple parts of this situation. So what I'm about to tell you only deals with one part of it. But regarding the fear about physically being up to it, health-wise, here's what I recommend to you. You have a physician, a doctor that you know and who cares about you and knows your story? Okay. Okay, thank God. You ask this doctor, even if you know what the answer is, you ask the doctor, do I have medical approval to be pregnant? Now, you might tell me, I've already asked, I already know, but I'm saying you get it in writing. It doesn't have to be, but I'm saying if that would make you feel more comfortable, yes, the doctor says you are able to withstand pregnancy, that it's medically advisable. Okay? Now, I'm just curious. The likelihood is if you asked your doctor would say it is medically advisable or not?
Yes. I never thought to ask, and not to sound like arrogant, but like I don't really care what other people think, even if it is a doctor.
I know, but let me tell you. I know that, but I'm telling you why. But I'm in the middle of a two-step process. Okay. Because I told you from the beginning that, it's fine, but I told you you're a God-fearing woman and a believing Jew. So this is why I'm telling you. Then you go to a Rav, a real Rav, a rabbi who can make halachic decisions on health issues. The kind of rabbi they call when, God forbid, there are end-of-life issues, or when there's a pregnancy which is a risk to the mother. Someone who can make real life and death decisions. And if you can't find such a person, then contact me through email and I'll refer you to someone who has this level of expertise, a halachic,
Thank you.
what we call a paisik, somebody who has the ability to make halachic decisions regarding medical issues. And you go to this Rav and you say, I had cancer, I'm in remission. I asked my doctor says it is medically advisable, meaning if I so desire, it's medically okay for me to withstand pregnancy. I want to be told that according to Torah, it is permissible for me, because Torah will not allow you to do anything that would put your life in danger. So the reason I want you to ask for this psak, for this halachic ruling, is because at least that part of your hesitancy, I know that I said before, there are different parts of this issue, but that part about it, about being concerned just physically if you're up for it, if you have a Rav tell you that according to Torah, you are able to do this, this doesn't just give you permission, it empowers you, it gives you the spiritual wherewithal to actually do it. And I believe that for someone like you, that would be incredibly meaningful, and it would give you a lot of strength and clarity. Yeah. So that piece of it, okay, so that resonates with you. So that piece of it, I would do that procedure. Go to a doctor who knows you and say, I know this sounds crazy, maybe even think this is like a no-brainer. I want to be told that it is medically advisable for me to withstand pregnancy, or not. And if it's not, then it's not. Okay? In which case, then you go to the same Rav and you say, it's medically unadvisable for me to get pregnant. And if a doctor tells you it's not safe for you to be pregnant, the rabbi will tell you, you're not allowed to get pregnant. You're not allowed. So Torah will always put health first. So if a doctor says it's medically unadvisable, a rabbi will tell you, then Torah will not only tell you don't have to get pregnant, Torah will tell you you're not allowed to endanger yourself. You're not allowed to endanger yourself. But if it is medically advisable, and then the rabbi tells you it is permissible, then I think that, I know you say you don't care what other people think, but this is how we get Hashem's green light, so to speak. The Hashem gave us a system of Torah, and there's a system for how to receive a ruling, an authoritative ruling, and I know that this would be meaningful to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have part of a solution, not the whole solution, but we have part of a solution. Okay, but let's talk about the trauma, and let's talk about, because I understand it partially, but not completely. I get this, that you basically adopted this attitude of, I call it being ambivalent about life and death, but, sort of just accepting, okay, if I die, I die. Not in I don't mean it in a callous way, but more like in a way of being courageous about it. Okay. And then, I want to understand this. Explain it to me a little bit more. What you're left with now. What's your current attitude?
Yeah, I don't think about it day to day anymore, thank God. It took a long time to get here, for a lot of work, but the attitude is, it goes with my personality. I'm not a vulnerable person naturally. I'm just not. I'm very guarded. I don't trust humans. I trust God.
It came up twice now.
My husband.
JFYI.
And animals.
The fact that you don't trust people came up twice.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. So I guess
do you know where that comes from, by the way? Just for fun. Sometimes things are connected. I mean, everything is always connected. Sometimes we see the connections.
I've never been. I've never been hurt by someone to say, hey, I had this incident and this, but I guess I've always been like that observant child in the room watching, and like I was kind of the adult as a kid. And so I always remember seeing people and being like, hey, I don't want to be that emotional mess over there. I don't want, I want to. That's kind of how it was.
Are you the oldest child?
I know I'm number 4 of 5 girls.
4 or 5. So why are you so hyper competent? Why were you a little adult as a child? Because if you told me you're a firstborn, that's very textbook.
I don't have the answer to that. I don't have the answer to that.
But you're saying you're hypersensitive and you always noticed a lot of stuff?
I notice everything.
You notice everything. And maybe you noticed so much that it made you feel unsafe?
I definitely lacked, I was physically safe. I lacked emotional stability, for sure.
Right.
And to me, stability and security are the most important things.
And nobody could take care of it for you, so you developed this hyper-independence and lack of trust in people.
Very hyper-independent.
Yeah.
People are just people.
People are just people. That's, by the way, I know that it comes from a dysfunctional coping mechanism in you where you like say that people are just people, but it actually happens to be true. And it's a very healthy attitude. People are just people. And one of the ways that we get burnt is when we start putting people on a pedestal, because really trust should only be trust in Hashem. We could love people, we could connect with people, we can sympathize with them, but it's not always, well, it's usually never a good idea to put our trust in people because they're people. They're just people. Even me, it's like, I know people look, oh, the rabbi, he's so smart. No, I'm just a guy. And by the way, I get the feeling from you that even when you're talking to me, which is refreshing for me, because a lot of people talk to me like I'm, channeling some higher truth. I get the sense you're also like, you respect the fact that I'm talking to you, but you understand that everything that I'm saying, I'm a human being and it could be wrong.
This is my first time doing anything like this.
Because you don't trust people. Okay.
I've never.
Okay, so amazing.
I've never sat in therapy.
Because you don't trust people. Okay, but this is great. Okay, and at the end of the day, like I said earlier when we were talking about your self-diagnosis, I said that you know the truth intuitively. So at the end of our whole conversation, I'm not going to even ask you to trust me. I'm only going to ask you to trust yourself, because whatever conclusion we come to is going to be your own intuitive conclusion. Okay. So help me understand a little bit about this attitude toward life that you were left with after the trauma of the health scare and how that makes it difficult to want to carry a pregnancy. I want to understand it a little bit more.
That's the big she'elah. That's the big question here. I don't have the answer as far as the actual pregnancy, but I do know that I guard myself, and I'm all in or I'm all out, like emotionally, logically, physically, all the things. And so it's almost like, is this a cop out for me to just not be?
Do you know the expression?
As bonded.
Have you ever heard the expression? Sorry to cut you off, but have you ever heard the expression? There's no such. What do you say?
I said no. Go ahead.
Okay. Have you ever heard the expression? And it's sort of like a comedic expression, comical expression. There's no such thing as a little bit pregnant.
Maybe. I feel like maybe my mom has said that, but she's a funny.
All right.
I don't know.
Well, regardless of whether you're familiar with the expression, you understand what it means. There's no such thing as a little bit pregnant. It's you either are or you are not. Right? It's not something like, let me test it out a little bit. Let me get a little bit pregnant and see how it goes, and then if I don't like it, this is the ultimate all or nothing. And at this point, you're coming down on nothing. I just I can't get into this. Because to be into it means 100% commitment, which is 100% commitment to the idea that what? Being pregnant would be 100% commitment to what idea, to what truth that you're just not comfortable with right now? The truth that what?
Parenting or having a child, I don't know.
I'm saying what bigger idea?
Being pregnant.
Yeah, well, being pregnant is just, I don't want to sound crass, but like lots of people get pregnant.
I guess somebody depending. I don't know.
Somebody depending on you?
I don't know, me being there. I don't know.
No. You do know. You do know. You're saying awesome. Somebody depending on you. So this doesn't even have to do with your cancer. This has to do with your childhood. No, it doesn't.
No, I'm saying depending.
No, because
I need to be alive in the world for them.
This goes back long before when you were in your 20s. This goes back to when you were the little girl who was sensitive to everything, who knew what was going on and didn't understand what are these foolish adults doing? Don't they understand? Don't they see what I'm seeing? We're not safe. Who are the adults? Who's taking care of me? These people are out to lunch. They're completely oblivious. So you develop that belief that there's no one to depend on. Am I correct? I mean, tell me if this is incorrect.
I mean, yes, that's correct in my childhood. I guess I meant it more like depending on me. That is correct about my
but
childhood.
It's no different.
I guess I meant
what difference does it make
like
if you're
here?
On a spiritual level? It doesn't make a difference. Truth is truth. It doesn't matter if you're the little girl or if you have a little girl or a little boy. It doesn't matter if you are the child or you're having a child. The truth remains. Nobody can be relied upon. Parents aren't safe. Adults aren't safe. They won't take care of you. So it doesn't matter if now you're the grown-up and now you're the adult. There's still a truth that you've believed in your entire life, which is little kids cannot depend on adults for safety.
Yeah. That is true. The way I look at.
Yeah.
I see like siblings parenting their children, and I'm like, wow, they're just reliving their childhood all over again and like putting it on their children. And I see that, and I'm like, do I really need to do that? Probably not.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, this is very helpful what you're saying, because really what you're telling me is the cancer is really almost a red herring, meaning it's almost like a distraction. It seems like that's what it is. When I was in my 20s, I had cancer, and then I got through it, and I came out of it with a very bleak attitude toward life. And then I tried to follow that narrative. If you remember, I tried to follow that narrative, and I said, you don't care about life. And then you were like, well, actually, I do care about life. So then I'm like, so maybe this isn't the right track. Yeah. And then you happened to have mentioned twice, I don't trust people, which was great. I appreciate you giving me all the clues that I needed. By the way, in the Mishnah, there's a machlokes whether it takes 3 times to establish a pattern or 2 times to establish a pattern. It's a machlokes between Rabbi Gamaliel and Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. So Rabbi says it only takes 2 times to establish a pattern. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says it takes 3 times to establish a pattern. A chazaka, we call it a chazaka. So generally speaking, in most things, we say it takes 3 times. It's not a pattern until it happens 3 times. But in din and nefashos, in life and death matters, we say 2 times. So for instance, where would that apply in halacha? If parents had a son who had hemophilia and he bled, God forbid, from a bris, from a circumcision, and if it happened twice in a family, so then they don't circumcise the 3rd child, because it's a life and death issue. If it happened twice, then we have to assume it's going to happen again. Okay, so when someone's telling me their life story, to me that's life and death, even if it's not about cancer, even if it's not about bringing a baby into the world. Your life is life. It's literally, it's life. So when somebody tells me something twice, I follow the opinion of Rebbe that that's a chazaka. Anything somebody mentioned, now everyone's going to be careful when they talk to me. But if you said something twice in a short conversation, I knew it was meaningful.
Yeah.
So it seems like your insecurity as a child, not being able to trust that anyone could take care of you, that's the real source of the conflict here. And as far as like the health stuff, Yeah, like we said, you'll go to a doctor, you get a clean bill of health, you'll bring it to a Rav who paskins in medical halacha, and that part will be taken care of. But what are we going to do about the fact that you've believed since you were this sensitive little girl that nobody's really fit for parenting, including yourself, I guess?
I do think I would be I hope I would do it differently. I do think like I'm capable.
So let me help you out here, because I think I've gotten to know you a little bit, and I know what speaks to you. I know your language. Okay, like when I told you to get a psak from a Rav that you are capable of getting pregnant. That you liked that. Yeah. Okay. So here's what I want to tell you. You are much more comfortable with Hashem than you are with people.
Uh-huh.
Me too, by the way. I'm the same way. Most people, it's the exact opposite. They're much more comfortable with people than with God, but I'm the same way. So here's what I want to tell you. It says in the Gemara Nida, Shleisha Shutfin Yesh Ba'adam. There are three partners in the creation of a human being. HaKadosh Baruch Hu va'aviv v'imai. The Holy One, meaning Hashem, God, the person's father, and the person's mother. So here's what I want to tell you. Your child is not relying solely on you and your husband. There are three partners, and that third partner is the infinite God who has infinite resources. And that's who you're relying on. Now, you're going to say to me, yeah, Rabbi, that's very inspiring, but I'm not sure how real that is, because if that's true, then how come so many parents are incompetent? I mean, God was partners with them also. God was their partner also. Why were they incompetent? And I don't know if you asked that question yet, but I'm sure if I wouldn't have brought it up, then, later tonight when you're rethinking this whole thing, your smart brain would have thought of that question. So here's what I'll tell you. You understand the question?
Yes,
okay.
I'm just listening.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So here's the answer. The answer is, remember I told you earlier that I'm not really going to tell you anything that you don't already know? I'm just going to give you back what the truth that you intuitively know? Okay. That's a real truism. You can't give somebody something that they don't already have. So then what can you do is even by the way, like when a rich person gives a poor person tzedakah, the way that we look at it is that God gave the money to the rich person to hold on to, but it really belongs to the poor person. The rich person's not giving his own money to the poor person. That's poor person's money. He's just coming to claim it now, right? And same thing with wisdom. When somebody comes to learn from a teacher, the teacher is not giving his own wisdom to the student. It's wisdom that really belonged to the student all along. And that's why the best wisdom, when you hear it, you're like, I always kind of knew that. Like, I like the words that you used, but I always knew that, right? So the same thing here. This power to co-parent your child along with Hashem, that's not something that you have to go out and get. Every parent has it, but not every parent knows about it. And if they don't know about it, they don't use it. It would be like having a checking account in your name sitting at Chase Bank, and it's got $1 million in it. By the way, don't keep $1 million in a checking account, but let's pretend. And you're walking around with the ATM card and a piece of paper with the PIN number on it, but you don't even realize that you could go and make a withdrawal every day and be rich because you don't even understand what you're carrying. It's yours, but you don't even know that you've got it on you. So one of the things, I have a parenting course, by the way, and when in the right time, when it's applicable to you, I want to give you a free enrollment to my parenting course. But one of the first lessons I teach in my 6-week online parenting course is, and there's a reason why it's one of the first lessons, because it's the foundation of everything else, is this concept of the company credit card. Company credit card means if you're working for a company and you go out for lunch, you pay for your own lunch. But if the company says take out the clients for lunch, then the company credit card, right? Then the company has to pay for the lunch because you're taking out clients. When you are a parent, you partner with Hashem, you get the company credit card. And that means that you have special access to Hashem's love, Hashem's wisdom, Hashem's patience. A lot of parents don't realize they have that access, and unfortunately, their children suffer as a result. But one of the things I try to do is, there's a website you can put in and find out if, like, you have money out there that you don't know about. Like, I think, like, each state has the Department of Treasury. You can go put in your name and your Social Security, and then it tells you, oh, you don't realize Verizon owes you $300 from an account that you closed down 10 years ago in another state, right? So, and then you sort of reunite the person with their funds. One of the things I do in my parenting course is I sort of play that broker role and let people know about this power that it already belongs to them. So bottom line, here's what I want to tell you. Knowing your personality and the way that your brain works, I think this will resonate with you. I think this is speaking your language. If you have a child in the right time, and it should be in good health for you and the child, I'm telling you right now, your child is not going to have to rely on you as a human being. Your child will be relying on Hashem, and you are merely the conduit. You're the channel to bring all of that infinite blessing from Hashem to your child. But it's Hashem's child. Or like they say, God has no grandchildren. God has no grandchildren. It's not like you're Hashem's child and then your child is the child of Hashem's child, so your child is Hashem's grandchild. No. God has no grandchildren. Your child is Hashem's child directly. Hashem is taking care of your child.
I do believe that's true. That's probably how I felt as a child. So I do know that to be true.
I think that if you can really meditate on that concept, that this is Hashem's child, you are just the conduit, that you will find a feeling of safety. Not a safety that's coming from you and your hyper competence and hyper independence, but a safety that's coming from Hashem. And then I think you'll feel
so much.
that your child will be safe. And I think you'll feel hopeful about being able to have a child and many children in the right time and in good health.
Thank you so much. It would be, it could have all started with this conversation. So thank you so much.
Okay, if you want to follow up with us, for that, getting rabbinic.
I do.
Yeah. Okay. So
I don't have that. Yeah.
Do you have our email? That's how you originally contacted us, right?
Yes, I can use that email.
Yeah. Okay. So just send another email.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Bye-bye.
you for being really
Thank you so
brave.
much.
No, thank you. Really, I know you don't trust people, so this was a huge thing for you to talk to a person.
It's not.
But I think that I'm the right person. For a person who doesn't trust people, I'm like the right person to talk to because I don't trust people either. And at the bottom line, at the end of the day, the only thing I'm telling you to trust in is just trust in Hashem. And I know that that's something that is very natural and intuitive to you. So.
Thank you. I do appreciate your hashkafa. I was like, I've never done something like this before, and something I've just watched your videos and lectures in the last month, and I just really appreciate your perspective. And I'm really listening when you speak, and I'm like, I'm really listening when you speak, and so I decided to do this. So I've never done this before, so thank you.
So you should know about me. I was also a little kid who felt unsafe in the world because I was sensitive to everything. Yeah. So people think I'm so spiritual. I'm not so spiritual. I had to become conscious of Hashem out of necessity because people weren't doing it for me. They still don't do it for me. So that's why yeah. By the way, I jokingly, but every joke has a little truth, say that if my videos come up in your YouTube feed, that's probably the only diagnosis you need for being neurodivergent. I say it half jokingly, but at any rate, all right. I would follow up with us. I want to be in touch, and we should hear good news. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Amazing.
Thank you. And so much time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay. Okay. Now, we have somebody up. Lindsay is the next on the line. I hope Lindsay is there. Okay, let's see.
I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me.
Thank you. I hear you. I do hear you. And thank you for being patient, because I know the previous call went on for a long time, but that was a real amazing story. And you're about to tell me that people confide in you with heavy info. Well, how did you like that? That was heavy info. What that was all just told me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm not going to help you. I need you to help me. You know what people dump on my doorstep? Could you just, oh no, I'm doing it to you again. People dumping heavy info on you. Talk to me about the heavy info. I think I could commiserate a little bit with you. Let's talk shop.
Yeah, I think, this is a good reminder, these two callers, and thank you, I will thank them for their trust, right, just to share so openly. I think that this is a good reminder that there is an order and into what's happening. And I think that being an empathic person, you just receive, but if you're receiving anything, because they're ready for it. I think that's what I'm taking from this call.
Yeah.
If you're receiving, if you're opening out to me, you're trusting me, and there is something that I must be giving you, that you are feeling some kind of comfort. And I think that I needed this just to connect back to myself and understand that same trust that they're reflecting on me, then I need to connect with that, the Creator, and understand that there is a gift that it needs to be shared. And it's the gift of unity, love, contentment, and, the beauty of life itself.
Yeah. So basically, listening to that last call, that did it for you. That you got your clarity, you got your answer. Yeah.
Well, I think it's
really.
I don't know if I found the answer, but I think there's definitely, we're here. We need to trust that we're here for a reason, and whatever cross our path, it crosses it because, as you mentioned before, it's either showing us something or we're to give something. To that person. I think my question was how do I keep myself centered? How do I keep myself, in that space where I trust also that this is
okay.
This was meant to happen, and no doubt.
So basically, what you're talking about is how do you keep yourself centered when you're exposed to such heavy stuff all the time? Is that what you're saying?
Well, my question to you will be, when you listen to all of this, right? Very important things. They pour their heart out to you. It comes with, when I listen to them and when I listen to the people that are, that trust me and share their stuff, I feel them. I feel their pain. And when they're gone, then, how do I go back to that center? How do I go back to that sense of peace that must have a lot, that they must have sense to gravitate toward where I was?
Yeah. So there's a few things. One thing is that, like I was saying to the previous caller about we really only trust in Hashem, is that at the end of the day, I have a duty to do what I can do, but I don't control outcomes. So I'm not there to finish anybody else's job for them. I'm there to play a role for a certain amount of time, sometimes very, very briefly. And as long as I know that I did my job with sincerity and with compassion and with honesty, I let it go afterwards. I don't know what the person's going to go and do with this. I don't know how many twists and turns their story will take even after I spoke to them. So we really have to have the humility to remember that Hashem is the one who's controlling all of this. And, we just put in our honest effort, and that's it. And we can't hold ourselves liable for how things turn out. That's one thing. But another thing I want to tell you is you should be mindful of your own capacity. And when you're not feeling grounded and you don't have space for somebody's energy, then you have to have a very strong boundary. And that means not always responding to somebody's request for your time and focus and energy. Because if you're not in a state where you're capable of doing it, it's not fair to you because you're running yourself ragged. It's not fair to the other person because they're not getting the best of you. I think where it becomes tricky is when this becomes your identity, where this is your role. This is how you see yourself. Well, I'm the helpful person. And then when you're so exhausted that you're not capable of being helpful right now until you rest, then you start to question, well, what's my value? What's my worth? No, I have to go do it. And it becomes like a compulsion. And when it becomes a compulsion, then it's not even pure anymore anyway. You're not really focusing on a helpful healing intention. You're focusing on your own obsession to retain some sense of identity. So therefore, you have to know when you're not up for a call or when you're not up for being around people. If you're empathic, as you mentioned, sometimes just being around people is going to be draining. And if you know that you're not up for it, so you're not up for it. Those two things. One is don't really try to control outcomes. Do what you can do, and then it's in God's hands. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is boundaries and self-advocating and knowing how to say no strategically so that you're taking care of yourself. And if you put your trust in Hashem, it's much easier to do both of those things. Is that helpful?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Really, I appreciate it. Okay, we have another caller who's waiting in the queue. So if you'll just pull up the next caller. Do we have the next caller on the line?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
How you doing?
I feel like I'm having an outer body experience. I have the chills just from listening to the last callers. You can't make this stuff up.
You can't.
The Hashem is at work.
Absolutely. Really, it's amazing. People are amazing, and people's lives are amazing. And like you said, you cannot make it up. And it's incredibly humbling to have people tell you their story or even parts of their story. So yeah, I don't know if I'm having an out of body experience, but I agree with you that this is awesome, and I'm so grateful to be here. Okay.
It's going to get even crazier. I'm beside myself trying to make sense of it. I feel like I'm in some sort of matrix here. But so the last two callers, right? So Zohar, I related to so strongly. I share similar characteristics in that I am actually the first child.
You are the first child.
The oldest.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I have two younger brothers, so there is a big age gap. One's 10 years, and then the other is 12.
You were born an adult.
So I was born an adult.
You were never a child.
I became an adult. I was never a child, even when I was a child.
And when you were a child, you couldn't deal with other children because they were so childish.
I prayed for my brother. I literally remember praying to God in bed for my brother, for my first the middle child, because all my friends, they were busy. They had to play with their siblings, and I thought, I need a brother. And so I prayed every night for my brother, and I got a brother.
Oh, you prayed that you should have a brother. Uh-huh.
I did. I prayed really hard. I wanted a little brother so that I could have someone to play with, and I wouldn't feel so lonely. My mother was, single, and she was working a lot, so I was alone a lot.
Wow.
But so I relate to not trusting people, being hyper independent. I've been the second half of my life. I was raised by my father, he's a great man, but not good with emotions. So I was already an adult when I lived with my dad. I became aware of this childhood trauma similar to Zohar's that you and her were talking about, and how this has played a very big part in my life and the relationships that I have formed or not formed. And in the last few years, I've become even more reliant on God and on Hashem than I was when I was a child.
Even more so.
And even more so. And it's become such a deep and meaningful relationship that I have hard time putting into words. And so when I find as this, relationship has deepened, and I'm an empath, so I relate with the previous caller as well, it taught me how to, this relationship and deepening it has helped me find balance in these things that would tip me over, in the last, all my life. But where I am now and what I emailed you about is, so when I have trouble dealing with hard things, I realize I cannot be where other people need me to be and where my strengths are. I tend to withdraw because I need to recenter myself.
Mm.
But
Very
I'm finding
similar to what we were talking about with the previous caller.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm at the stage of processing bitachon,
Yes.
right? Like what is that? And I turn to Torah when I can't explain things. I try to find these answers in these stories, and I have been getting stuck in 3 stories in particular. And where we are in this past parsha, it was like, oh, there it is. And talking about the binding of Isaac and Abraham, he's listening to God.
Right.
And he gets to this point where this is his final test.
Right. That's this week's parsha.
Right.
Yeah.
What is this? Right. And the same with Moshe. He knows he has his impediment, and God tells him to go, and he questions it, but not really. He still goes. It's like there's this spark that you just get over it. You just let it go. But it's so hard when you deal with these traumas and you're still dealing with them, and you don't just, climb that mountain and you're done. I feel like we'll probably climb this mountain until the day that we die, right? It's just we get better at it. But I get trapped in this fear cycle, and then I get trapped in what if the waiting is, the not doing, and like Esther, right? Or I don't know. I think you see where I'm going with this. When do you know?
Yeah. When do you know that you need to act no matter what, even if you're not ready? Or you don't feel
Or
ready?
even if maybe the action is, the non-action is the action.
That's sometimes the case, yeah.
At what point do you, right? And that's been so hard for me to process. So I go back to these stories and I try to unpack the character of who they are and who they were becoming at this point, because I feel like this relates, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And I logically can see it, but I can't manifest it when I need it to transcend in these moments of where I have unbelievable doubt and I don't know how to move forward.
Right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this, because there's no one-size-fits-all answer. Every situation is different, but I want to give you sort of a rule of thumb to guide you. And that is, pay attention to your gut. And what I mean by that is not like people say, trust your gut, act on your intuition. I mean, that's okay too, but that's not what I mean in this context. What I mean is, pay attention to how your gut is feeling in a situation. Are you feeling nervous or are you feeling calm? When you start to get those butterflies in your stomach, when you start to feel anxiety, that's when you need to stop and you need to recenter and focus on your trust in Hashem. When you need to get back to the bitochen. And once you're in that place of calmness, not just calm in your brain, like you said, ideologically, but calm in your stomach, then you can decide whether the proper course of action is action or non-action or whatever the case may be, or some combination of the two. But you need to get to a place of calm. And that place of calm is through focusing on the fact that whatever the outcome is in Hashem's hands, and the only choice that you need to make is your small part, your role in a story that's much greater than you. Okay, so it's like you say, it's a mountain that we climb for a lifetime, and we just get to higher and higher levels of it. Yeah.
I thank you so much. I mean, I feel like this, by the time we got, the other callers, just hearing their stories really helped put things into perspective. And, I watch thank you so much for the work you're doing and putting out your reels. I just really enjoy your insights and just generally the way that you communicate those. I think it's wonderful. So I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, we have another caller. I think this is our last caller for the evening, but let's see here. All right. Is there one last person who's waiting online?
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah, I guess it's you. Yeah, I guess it's you.
Hi, good evening, Rabbi Taub. This is so funny because I had this question and I was just thinking to myself, I'd love to be able to talk to Rabbi Shais Taub about this. And
now you are.
So thank you so much for having me on.
You manifested.
Now I am. Okay. Hashkafa process.
Yes.
Thank you. So, thank you so much. So, thank you. So the question is the case of the golden grandchild, if you will. So
interesting.
My and it's a question I have. So my husband and I, we are only children. So our children, thank God we have a little boy and a little girl. Boy is 3.5. The only that the grandparents have.
Wait, so you have a boy and a girl. Your boy is 3, and your girl is how old?
A little over 1.5 years.
Okay. So both little kids, very little kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, both little kids. And my mother-in-law is the type that my husband and has walked on eggshells around her, his whole life since he's a little kid. I'm observing this even to certain things that are unconscious that I personally observe.
You know, I had a similar thing with my own mother, and I think that's the reason that, you know, he and I understand one another and get along well. But I believe that for myself, certain things are more in the conscious realm, and he's, you know, not things aren't fully conscious for him about that yet, but it's been a little bit progress in that
Mothers
direction.
and daughters are very different than mothers and sons. And very often, yeah. So you are both only children. And when you're an only child of a parent who's emotionally needy, you become literally everything to your parent. You become everything. You literally get worshipped as a god. Or you become the devil. And sometimes, you know, both one from 1 minute to the next.
Depends. Yeah, it
depends
on the situation.
But here's the deal. Mothers and daughters are different than sons and mothers, because a daughter eventually kind of sees this for what it is in the same-sex parent, the daughter and the mother. So she kind of realizes, hey, like, I am not the main character in your life. That can't be. Right. That can't be, right? Sons and mothers, it's a little bit trickier, because a little boy does believe, he is led to believe that he has this importance, and it can be really difficult, like extremely difficult, to be told, you don't have to cater to that anymore. Well, what do you mean I don't have to cater to it? Of course I do.
Yeah.
Of course I do.
And
I should tell her to jump off a bridge?
I'm so scared.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you. I'm so scared that it's happening to my little son, which is, you know, I see
that's
it.
the golden grandchild.
Yes.
Okay.
And we both see it. And, you know, since he's a baby, and, you know, she decided this is her heaven. This is her one and only. And originally when we see each other, first he hides with me. He doesn't want to go. And then, you know, he has to. And then, well, cause, you know, they come and visit every week. And then now it's, you know, he pushes mommy and daddy away, and he cries that he doesn't want us, and he only cries for grandma, and he, you know, doesn't follow our rules, and it really splits, and he changed. You know, he's a little boy, he can't help it. But I'm just so scared about the long-term effects of that. And you know, I mean, I think it's good that, you know, we're you know, his parent. It's not his parents, but it's his grandparents, and it's a very strong force. And you know, my you know, husband is not willing. You know, we have to, you know, respect our parents. You know, they want to come visit, you know, as frequently as whatever. We're not going to, you know, interfere with that so much. But it's so frequent, and I just see such a change in his behavior. And I'm a sensitive person. I know where that feeling is coming from, but he has to cater to those whims to get that response. And I just don't want him to grow up having this imprinted codependency model from his grandma, and how that's going to shape his future relationships with women. I don't know.
Yep. No, you're 100% correct.
Yep.
You're 100% correct. And the fact that you're saying it so bluntly, like I'm totally with you, by the way. Like, I love how you're saying just very, very flat out, like, this will shape his future relationships with women. You're 100% correct. Of course it will. Of course it will. Okay. So, you know, the question is, and I'm afraid I know the answer to this already, but I you know, I have to do due diligence here.
Right.
Is there enough self-awareness? I'm afraid I know the answer already, but is there enough self-awareness that your mother-in-law can tone it down?
In fact, I tried to venture into that a little bit today. Admittedly, I was not in the best mood, and then I got a little bit of
that from her. I think there's been a teeny sliver, but not a teeny sliver of like, oh, I'm being an over the top grandma, I should tone it down. But not like what I would call a true self-awareness. I think it's still her modus operandi, and need I perhaps it goes without saying that the dynamic is not the same towards her granddaughter.
Of course not. Of course not, because it doesn't fulfill that need for her,
and
which is what makes the whole thing so suspect. It's like, you can say that your son is 3, so he's cute, he talks, he does stuff, and your daughter is 1.5, so she doesn't even do anything. But still, no,
it's not.
But that's not what it is. It's she likes this little boy, and I'm not saying anything. I just want everyone to understand. You and I both know we're not saying anything creepy.
Right.
It doesn't have to be creepy to be unhealthy.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And my husband said too. He's like, I don't think that their dynamic is healthy.
Yeah.
And so I guess my question is, do I have hope that, just by virtue of being his mom myself, will I be able to mitigate that somewhat? That, okay, I'm probably not going to be able to, quote unquote, interfere or block that relationship or, questions if I should, whatever. That's not on the page right now. But will I be able to being different rather than that's, the only role model?
Yeah. Well, the answer is yes, because you ultimately are the parent, and there's a special connection spiritually that a child has to a parent. They have also to a grandparent, but the parent-child connection is much more direct, obviously, not just biologically, but spiritually. So, yes, you do have a greater influence. The question is how strategic you can be in wielding that influence. And I think you're going to have to be very mindful about, parenting also always has to be mindful. There always has to be a game plan where we're taking into account every child's unique situation and their development and their challenges. In this particular case, yeah. So let's talk about the personality traits that we want to make sure that your son has. Instead of saying the negative, like, I don't want him to be a clingy, codependent with an Oedipus complex.
Right.
Right. Let's say the positive. What's the target? How, because you're raising him. How are you going to raise him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You want him to have, humility, Yiras Shamayim, and the sense that, I have to, maybe it doesn't come when he's 3, but when he's older, but, I have, certain ways that I'm going to behave, to the best of, and my certain responsibilities to the best of my ability, regardless of, whatever someone else's expectations are around. That those are my that's my character. That's, how I choose to behave because of who I am as a yid and so forth, and not because of someone's manipulation.
Right.
One day.
So what you're saying is you want him to be a person who is able to be his own person, make choices, and not be concerned what people think.
Yeah.
And obviously, when we're saying make good choices, we believe in a God-given absolute morality, which is the sole arbiter of what good choices mean. And I'm filling that in, not for you, but for the other people listening, just so that they know that that's what we mean. Okay, so that's the target. That's really how you're going to raise him to be somebody who is not a people pleaser. Well, I said I don't want to say the negative. I want to say the positive. But to be somebody who is let's come up with a couple positive words to describe it. A couple positive words for the character traits. a word or two, not long sentences, because it loses its potency when it's a lot of words. What are the traits?
He's self-directed, I guess. Self-directed. Self-sure.
Yeah.
Confident.
Confident, yeah.
Confident.
This is a long phrase, but I like the concept of emotionally autonomous. Meaning my emotional state is not a reaction to other people or things.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's going to be the focus. And let me tell you this, not to comfort you, although I think it will be slightly comforting, that Hashem knows what he's doing, and he places resistance in people's lives for a reason. So it's not like this challenge is random. This challenge is calling your attention to something that you're going to be very mindful about in raising your son. So we'll welcome it as a reminder.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's a big direction. I definitely have a clear sense of a lot of different things that I have to, a lot of factors to be able to do this. And that's going to be a long-term project.
Well, parenting is a long-term project, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Lots of nachas from both your kids.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rabbi Taub.
My pleasure. Okay, all right. Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, that was our last caller for the evening. I don't even remember how many callers we had, but Baruch Hashem, that was pretty exciting. JFYI, so people, if people are curious, I don't know if people care, but these phone calls that we had are pretty representative of the types of conversations I have with people on a semi-frequent basis. I tell people, when people ask me, do you do one-on-one appointments? I say somewhat curtly, I don't know, as little as infrequently as possible, as little as possible, and the reason is because I just want to clarify, this isn't my job. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach. This isn't my job. What is my job? My job is to learn and to teach Torah and to put it out in various formats that people can study from. So that's my job. At the same time, yes, people do ask for the opportunity to talk things through with me. So I do offer that as a service. I do it a couple times a week. I try, like I said, as infrequently as possible. It's not my bread and butter. It's not something. Well, it takes a lot out of me also. So it's not like something I could do every day anyway. But when people do call me for these one-on-one discussions, what you heard tonight is pretty representative of what those discussions are like. In other words, somebody just tells me what's going on in their life, and I try to listen, and I listen for patterns, and then I ask them about those patterns. And I'm really very confident in people's ability to lead me to clarity. And I always respectfully check in with them to make sure that I'm understanding their story properly. And usually we can find a couple truth bombs here and there. And it doesn't take that long. Like you heard, these calls are 10 minutes, 15 minutes. One of them was probably 30 minutes. But a lot of times people were like, okay, I need to speak to you, but I need 2 hours. No, you don't. You really don't. If I can hear you, I can do it pretty quickly. Meaning, if I don't understand your story after 2 hours, I'm not going to understand it after 2 years. And I believe that people tell you everything in the first 2 minutes. They tell you the problem. They tell you the solution. They tell you their mission in life in the first 2 minutes. And the only question is, are you going to listen well enough to hear them tell it to you? So now you got like a little bit of a glimpse into how that works. And I hope people enjoyed it. And what else? What else can I tell you? I'm going to check in, hold on, with my kids, who are my producers over here. Just making sure they don't want me to talk about anything else while I'm here. God willing, we'll do this again sometime. I think our goal was we wanted to make it a regular Thursday night thing. Oh, Yisrael told me to mention the parenting course. I have a parenting course, a 6-week online parenting course. When is it offered? I don't know yet. I only do it once or twice a year. No, I'm not going to. He's texting me. I should launch it on the show. No, I'm not launching it because I don't know when I can do it. It's an online course, but it's live. It's not pre-recorded. It's interactive. So I have to figure out when I have 6 weeks that I could commit to not traveling and not doing anything else. And then I'll launch the 6-week parenting course. But yeah, I have a 6-week parenting course, which I mentioned to Zohar. I told her that when she becomes a mother, she should contact me and we'll give her a free parenting course. Oh, follow Instagram to be informed about the next show. Yes, follow Instagram. So you just go to Instagram, you look at Rabbi Shais Taub on Instagram. Also, subscribe to our YouTube. You're watching YouTube right now. Just hit the subscribe button. It's not hard. It's right there. It's right on the same page. Thank all callers and encourage others to join in coming weeks. Yes, we want to thank all of our callers tonight, and we want to encourage people who have a topic they would like to discuss on a future call. Send us an email. That's how we're doing it for now. You email us at info@soulwords.org, info, I-N-F-O, at SoulWords, SOULWORDS.org, and let us know what you want to talk about, and then we'll give you the call-in number. And that is... One second here. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, officially launch next week. Okay. Yeah, so God willing, with Hashem's help, next week, next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we will do the call-in show again. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us.